Hi guys, I'm Maeri. Welcome back to my channel. So today I want to tell you about a passive voice. So I will listen the material clearly and don't forget to subscribe my channel. Then after that, are you ready to watch my video? Okay, let's get started. Before I want to explain the materials, I need to introduce myself. My name is Sukmayanti. You can call me Maeri. My hobbies are reading fanfiction and writing. Writing what? Some fanfiction line or another. Okay, let's skip about that. So for the first time, I want to teach you about the grammatical lessons. And the material that I pick is about passive voice. Okay, let's start with the material. Guys, for the first, I want to tell about the definition of passive voices. Okay, a passive voice is a type or a class or sentence in which an action through the verb or an object of a sentence is emphasized rather than its subject. Simply, the subject receives the action of the verb, the emphasis or focus on the action, while the subject is not noun or is less important. Or you can say like this: passive voice, one of the two voices of the verbs. See also the active voice. So we have several voices, and the first voices is active voices, and the second is a passive voice. So a verb in the passive voice when the subject of the sentence is acted by the verb. For example, a ball was thrown by the pitcher. So you can say the ball is the subject, receives the action of the verb, and was thrown is the in the passive voice. So guys, after I talk about the definition of the passive voice, now you should try about the function of the passive voice and also the use. Okay, the passive voice is used when the focus on the action. It's not important or not noun, however who or what is performing the action. So why you should use the passive voice? Well, there are times when you don't want to say who or what did the action. Maybe you're trying to avoid responsibility for something you did, or you don't want to get your mate into trouble. Or maybe you don't know who did the action because actually the object is the most important or the most interesting part of the sentence. So that the action is happening. English speakers frequently use the passive voice, but this lesson is not about the English speakers. It's about the passive voice. It's the most important thing, so we can change it into the passive voice. It's frequently used by English speakers. Now you will often passive sentence in newspaper when the journalist can say who did something, maybe because they don't know who did it. It's also used in scientific reports and illegal documents because the information has to be objective, so there's no subject. Now some other really common passive expression. And also in technical writings, function of passive voice is style guides do not support the use of passive voice in technical writings because it makes the text lengthy, slow to read, and often ambiguous. However, it's very common in literature, lab reports, and scientific writings where the performer is given lesser importance than the action. In this type of writing, a passive voice is very helpful to avoid taking responsibility of the action. It's also useful when the writers want to shift focus to subject and action. From the use of the passive, I have several examples like this. My bike was stolen. In the example, the focus on the fact that my bike was stolen. I don't know, however, who did it. Sometimes a statement in passive is more polite than active voices. As the following example shows, like this. A mistake was made. In this case, I focus on that fact that a mistake was made. But I do not blame anyone, I simply Grazia, you have made a mistake. Okay, after we talk about the function, let's move to the types of the passive voice. The passive voice has two types. The first type is the short passive. Short passive, in this type of construction, the subject of the performer is not noun. For the instance, in the phrase, a mistake is made, there's no subject, or the subject is unknown. And the second is long passive. In this type construction, the object becomes the subject of the sentence. For instance, in the sentence, the house was cleaned by auntie. The object, the house, has become the subject. After that, talking about the types, let's move to the form of the passive. And the form is like this. Subject plus finite form of to be plus past participle, third columns of irregular verbs. Example, a letter was written. And when rewriting active sentence in the passive voice, you should note the following. For the first, the object of the active sentence becomes the subject of the passive sentence. 2. The finite form of the verb is changed to be plus past participle. 3. The subject of the active sentence becomes the object of the passive sentence or is dropped. Improve more your knowledge about the passive words, passive voice, okay? I want to show you the 12 tenses to be an example of passive. For the first, I have simple present tense in active voices. The voices is like this. Rita writes a letter, and you can change it to be passive like this. A letter is written by Rita. Why is change it? Listen and remember something like in the passive voice, you should change the object as the subject and the subject as the passion. So the verb is will change it into the past participle to explain more about the subject, the object. And let's move into the simple past. In the simple past, in active voice is Rita wrote a letter. In the passive, you can change it into a letter was written by Rita. It's changed it into the past participle. And the next is from the present perfect tense. In the present perfect tense, the same. Rita has written a letter. And the passive will change like a letter has been written by Rita. I didn't tell the 12 tenses in the example of the passive voices. So you can find it on internet because it's about the time on my video. And I want to tell the important tenses we'll use it in the passive voice. Okay? Let's move into passive sentence with two objects. Rewriting and the sentence with two objects in passive voice means that one of the two objects become the subject, the others one remain an object. Which object to transform into a subject depends on what you want to put on the focus on. Like The example. The active is Rita wrote a letter to me. So, can you see that object? Yes. The object is to, from a letter and to me. And we want to change into the passive. The passive is a letter was written to me by Rita. So, the object is still behind the verb, because you know that in the passive voice you must use the object as the subject, and you will get wrong when you use the passive voice like this. The passive is I was written a letter by Rita. As you can see like that in the examples, adding by Rita does not sound very elegant. That's why it's usually dropped. Okay, from the last lesson from the passive is that personal and impersonal passive. I want to explain about the personal passive. The personal passive simply means that object of the active sentence become the subject of the passive sentence. So every verb that needs an object, it's that transitive verb can form into a personal passive. The example like this: they built houses, and the passive will be houses are built. Verbs without an object, intransitive verb, normally cannot form a personal passive sentence, as there is no object that can become the subject of the passive sentence. If you want to use intransitive verb in a passive voice, you need an impersonal construction. Therefore, the passive is called impersonal passive. The example like this: he says, and it can be in the passive is it said. Impersonal passive is not as common in English as in some other language. Example Gracia, German, Latin. In English, impersonal passive is only possible with verbs perception. Example Gracia, say, saying, and noun. The example is: they say that women live longer than men. And it will change it like this: it said that women live longer than men. Although impersonal passive is possible here, personal passive more is common. The example is like: they say that women live longer than men. Women are said to live longer than men. The subject of the subordinated clauses, women, goes to the beginning of the sentence. The verb of perception is put into the passive voice. The rest of the sentence is added using an infinitive construction with to become certainly auxiliary verbs and that are dropped. Sometimes the term of personal passive is used in English lesson if in the direct object of an active sentence is to become the subject of the passive sentence. Alright guys, that's all about my materials about passive voice. If you want to know more about the passive voice, I will take some materials on the description box. Don't forget to subscribe my channel and turn on the bell to get more notification from me. Okay, that's all, and thank you for watching my video, and goodbye.